Imagine knowledge so profound it burns your eyes from their sockets. A truth so absolute that discovering it will drive you hopelessly mad. For the unfortunate souls who try to read them unprepared, this is the reality of the Elder Scrolls. The cost of their forbidden knowledge is absolute. Building worlds where magic has real, tangible consequences is a huge part of my own work as a fantasy author. My name is Jason, and I love exploring these themes in the franchises that inspire me, and that's why today we're diving into the immense power and terrible dangers of reading an Elder Scroll. So what even are the Elder Scrolls? Well, they are often called the Adric Prophecies, which suggests a connection to the gods who helped create the world of Mundus. But even the most learned scholars think that name is probably wrong. The ancient dragon Parthenax, who had been around for a few thousand years, described them best. He says they are fragments of creation that exist outside of time. They have always existed, and yet they don't exist at all. And this isn't just like a philosophical nonsense. It's a literal description of the quantum nature of the Elder Scrolls. Scrolls don't follow the normal rules of cause and effect. Before an event happens, a scroll shows countless possible futures, all equally real. But once an event actually occurs, that history becomes permanently fixed within the scroll. It's like reality itself is in a state of superposition, and the scrolls are the only thing that can perceive all possibilities at once until one path becomes real. This is why they're considered fragments of creation itself. They are pieces of the universe's source code, existing before the gods, before time as we know it, and before the world was even formed. That's a level of primordial power that few things in any universe can match. But despite being these ethereal cosmic artifacts, they are also, well, scrolls. Physical objects you can hold, carry, and even steal. To most people, they just look like parchment covered in meaningless symbols, but for those who know how to look, those symbols are a window into the inner fabric of reality. This is where the real danger begins. Looking at an Elder Scroll is not like reading a book. It's an attempt to cram an ocean of infinite possibilities into the teacup of a mortal mind. The most famous consequence is blindness. It's not a curse or a magical side effect, it's a psychological breakdown. Your mind and body simply cannot handle repeated exposure to the raw essence of time and space without being permanently damaged. This is why the cult of the ancestor moth exists. They are an ancient order of monks who dedicate their entire lives to preparing for the ordeal of reading a scroll. They undergo intense mental and spiritual training. Before a reading, a monk travels to a sacred ancestor grove and covers themselves in the dust of a canticle tree. This attracts ancestor moths, a mystical insects that carry the spirits of past monks who swarm around the reader and somehow buffer the informational assault, guiding them through the visions. Even with this lifetime of preparation and mystical aid, the cost is unavoidable. A novice monk's first reading might only cause temporary blindness for a few hours or days. With each subsequent reading, the blindness lasts longer, but their mental fortitude and the depth of their visions grow. Eventually, a monk reaches what they call the day of penultimate reading. The scroll itself informs them that their next reading will be their last. After this, they retreat into seclusion to prepare for one final glimpse into eternity. The final reading grants them a nearly sublime understanding of the scroll's contents, but in exchange, it takes their physical sight forever. They gain a second sight, a permanent vision of the infinite threads of time, but can no longer see the world in front of them. And that's the best case scenario. For someone who tried to read a scroll without this training, the consequences are immediate and catastrophic. Total incurable madness is a common result. Their mind simply shatters. We see a perfect example of this with the scholar Septimus Signus, a madman obsessed with the scrolls. He's clearly unhinged, but his ramblings contain glimmers of profound insight. He describes the scrolls as being able to look left and right in the stream of time, but sometimes they even look up. It's a cryptic but brilliant description of their multidimensional nature. He saw a truth that broke his mind, a living warning of what happens when you stare into the abyss and the abyss stares right back. By the way, my team and I fund this channel ourselves. We don't do any sponsors or mid-roll ads or affiliate links in the middle of our videos because nothing is more annoying than getting interrupted when you're deep in the lore. So I do have one quick thing to mention though. I think you'll really like my fantasy all-access library. There you can get every book I've ever written, all set in a huge shared universe where all world mythologies and legends coexist. It's how I'm able to keep this channel running, so if you're interested, the link is right below. Now, the power of an Elder Scroll goes far beyond just seeing the future. It can actively change it. The most dramatic example of this is the time wound on the throat of the world, the highest mountain in Skyrim. During the ancient Dragon War, 3 Nordic heroes faced the world eater Alduin. They were masters of the Thum, the dragon language of power, and even creating a shout, Dragon Rend, specifically to make dragons mortal. But it wasn't enough. Alduin wasn't just a powerful dragon, he was an aspect of time itself, a fundamental force of nature, and they couldn't kill him. So in a final desperate act, one of the heroes, Feldir the Old, used an Elder Scroll. He didn't read it for a prophecy, he used it as a weapon. He performed a ritual that cast Alduin forward, ripping him from their present and flinging him thousands of years into the future. This act was so violent that it literally broke time at that location, creating a time wound, a permanent scar on reality where the past and future bleed into one another. Thousands of years later, when Alduin returns, the last Dragonborn needs to learn the Dragon Rend shout, and the only way to do so is to learn it from the people who created it. So the Dragonborn takes that same Elder Scroll back to the time wound. The scroll acts as a key, allowing the Dragonborn to look back through the wound and witness the original battle, learning the shout directly from the ancient heroes. This wasn't a vision or a memory, it was a form of time travel connecting two desperate points in history. It proves that Elder Scrolls aren't just history books, they are temporal tools that can rewrite reality's timeline. This ability to shape our destiny is what makes these scrolls the ultimate source of prophecy. Unlike a mystic who gets hazy visions, a person reading an Elder Scroll is tapped directly into the raw data of time. The prophecies they contain are often cryptic, full of symbolism and metaphor that only makes sense in hindsight. For example, the Dragonborn prophecy foretold Alduin's return through a series of poetic lines. When the brass tower walks and time is reshaped, when the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies sundered. These lines refer to massive historical events like the activation of the Dwemer giant golem, the Oblivion Crisis, and the Civil War in Skyrim. The prophecy was incomprehensible for centuries, but it was always accurate. But these prophecies aren't always about what will happen. Sometimes they are blueprints for what could happen. The Tyranny of the Sun prophecy from the Dawnguard questline is a perfect example. It describes a ritual to permanently blot out the sun, plunging the world into eternal darkness for the benefit of vampires. It required Ariel's bow, a daughter of Cold Harbor, and an Elder Scroll itself. A prophecy wasn't a warning, it was a set of instructions. A sufficiently motivated and powerful individual, the vampire lord Harkon, tried to follow these instructions to bring about this dark future. This shows that the scrolls are neutral. They don't have an agenda. They simply contain the potential of all outcomes, both good and evil. The future isn't fixed until someone makes a choice and takes action to make one of those possibilities a reality. The Elder Scrolls have appeared at key moments in Tamriel's history, often used to achieve the impossible. During the events of Oblivion, the mysterious master thief known as the Grey Fox sought an Elder Scroll for a very personal reason. He was trapped by the curse of the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal. This Daedric artifact made him the greatest thief alive, but at a terrible price. It erased his very identity from history. Everyone who ever knew him forgot he existed. He was a ghost in his own life. He realized the only thing powerful enough to rewrite his existence back into history was an Elder Scroll. After an audacious heist, he successfully stole one from the Imperial Palace Library. Using the scroll's power, the specifics of which are a mystery, he was able to undo the Daedric prince's curse. This was a staggering feat. Nocturnal is a godlike being whose power is absolute, yet an Elder Scroll simply overwrote her authority. It treated her curse like a line of faulty code and deleted it, restoring the Grey Fox's original identity. In another era, the Dwemer, a race of agnostic scientists and engineers, got their hands on an Elder Scroll, but they didn't try to read it through ritual or spiritual preparation. They approached it as a technical problem. They built a machine, a lexicon designed to transcribe the scroll's contents without a person ever having to look at it directly, thus avoiding the madness and the blindness. This incredible device shows that there may be technological ways to interfere with these cosmic artifacts. The Dwemer vanished before they could perfect their work, but their lexicon proves that the scrolls are subject to certain physical laws even as they defy others. So how many of these things are there? The honest answer is nobody knows, and it seems the universe doesn't either. The cult of the Ancestor Moth has tried to conduct a census of the scrolls multiple times. Every single time they got a different number. It's not that they miscounted, it seems the very act of counting them changes the result. Their quantity is as unfixed as the future they describe. For a long time, the Moth cult kept a large collection of scrolls in the Imperial Library at the White Gold Tower, but sometime before the events of Skyrim, a thief, or perhaps a group of thieves, broke into one of the most secure locations on all of the continent and stole them all. The scrolls were then scattered across Tamriel. This event completely changed the game. Suddenly, the scrolls were out in the wild, waiting to be found in ancient ruins, sold in back alleys, or claimed by powerful mages. The work of the Moth cult changed from that of librarian to that of wandering artifact hunters, constantly trying to track down and secure these incredibly dangerous items before they fell into the wrong hands. To really understand the Elder Scrolls, you have to go deep into the metaphysics of their universe. One of the core tenets of the lore is that all of existence is a dream in the mind of a sleeping entity known as the Godhead. Everyone and everything, from the gods down to the mud crabs, is just a part of this dream. If you were to realize you're just a figment of a dream, you would likely cease to exist, a phenomenon called zero-summing. But a rare few individuals have reached this realization and, instead of disappearing, have managed to assert their own identity with the phrase I am, a state known as Kim. This grants them reality-warping powers as they are now lucid dreamers within the Godhead's dream. The Elder Scrolls seem to exist in a permanent state of Kim. They are part of the dream, yet they perceive it from the outside. They know it's a dream, but they don't zero-sum. They just are. This is why they can contain all pasts and all futures. They are aware of the dream's entire script. This also explains their authority over the Aedra and Daedra. The gods are simply very powerful characters within the dream, but the scrolls are tied to the structure of the dream itself. A Daedric prince like Hermaeus Mora can create powerful artifacts like his Black Books, which contain forbidden knowledge and can drive a reader mad, much like an Elder Scroll, but the Black Books are still his creations, bound by his will. The Elder Scrolls have no author. They serve no one. They are neutral, fundamental, and absolute. They hold a power that even the gods must respect because, in a sense, the scrolls are way more real than they are. And that's why the Elder Scrolls are some of the most fascinating objects in all of fiction. They're not just magical plot devices, they're a deep philosophical concept about the nature of reality, fate, and knowledge. If you enjoy these deep dives into fantasy worlds, you should check out the Fantasy All Access Library. It's a community I built on a platform called School where we do this kind of thing all the time. As a member, you get access to our weekly live calls, and you get all my fantasy ebooks and audiobooks, including at least one new novel every single month, all set within a single massive universe. If that sounds interesting, you can find the link in the description, and I will see you in the next video.